welcome back to another episode of Sharing the Love with our incredible guest, Avril. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic, Today, lighthearted. I'm feeling very lighthearted and just want to have fun.
I love it. Let's have fun. Alrighty, so
For sure.
let's jump into this.
Mhm.
Dun, 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 dun. And we're
Da,
here
da,
with
da,
our love
da.
bowl.
And stop.
I love that. We're really starting to have fun with this. The topic for today is fear.
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 Ooh, that's not a light, fun topic to talk about.
What's the first thought that comes to your mind when you think of fear?
Fear is that one dude who's always trying to get you down. Right? That one dude who's like, whenever you want to try something new or you want to step out of your comfort zone, I'll say if I was to personalize it, to be some kind of person or thing that just tries to hold you down, bring you down. Fear is shackles.
I'm wondering if I could challenge your thought in saying, and I
Sure.
completely understand, the shackles part, and definitely we all, to an extent, feel that the same way about it. But do you feel that fear plays a role in self-discovery, in protection? Why do you think it's there?
I think that fear is actually a natural thing, right? It's natural in the way that our nervous systems needed to have it for self-preservation, right? But I think it's when the ego then makes that fear into something more than it should be. There should be a sense of fear for me not to just go jump over a cliff. My body's nervous system should tell me to hold back, right? From a very primitive place. So I feel like there is and there was a place for it. And at the same time, I feel the more I'm growing and working, I'm relating that it's something I need to learn to work with. People have this thing that fear is like false evidence appearing real, FEAR, And at times, the examples I gave before were like primitive, physical stuff. But a lot of the fear that we now have in these modern days is stuff going on up here.
One of my transformations or kind of shifts in mindset is fear for me now is face everything and rise. And so when we look at that, right, is we're never saying, oh, we want to get rid of the fears. But when we talk about these shackles, who's giving them the power to put themselves on our feet? Who's giving them that I will let you hold me back? I will let you stop me from going for my dreams. I will let you stop me from doing 1, 2, 3 that fulfills me. It's us. And as you were saying, of course, it has its primitive role to play. But again, a huge part of it is now the conditioning that comes in with what failure means, in general, how people can view us, the fear of judgment, the fear of failure, the fear of success, the fear of responsibility, the fear of commitment,
Yes.
all of these fears,
Yes.
right? And they're
Yes.
narratives that we are feeding ourselves. It's learning how to work with that. So when I first asked you, what role does fear play in self-discovery, is let's dig in, let's talk to it. Let's understand what's going on. And this is one of the exercises that I do with my clients is we're externalizing the fear. We hold a water bottle or a hand or a tissue box or whatever it is, put it in front of you and talk to it. Learn from it. It's trying to say something. You can learn more about yourself in confronting it, way more than avoiding it and being like, okay, you know what, I'll
Yes.
let it hold me back. I'll give it the power.
Yes.
You have the
Yes.
power. And it's where you place your attention is where you give power.
Like sometimes, similar to what you're saying of working with it, we need to break down to see what is it exactly that you're afraid of, because that's when we can actually pull it apart and see where the actual danger is. When someone says, I'm afraid of a lion, right? What are they afraid of? Are you afraid of how the lion just looks from afar? Are you afraid of its teeth? Are you afraid of being beaten? Are you afraid of its roar? What exactly are you afraid of? As we unpack it, you zoom it and narrow it down to the fact of what it may be that's holding you back.
Okay.
That's what we're trying to do, to help people find those blind spots or those mindsets or those limiting beliefs, so, certain belief systems that are not serving them anymore.
And to kind of add to that is, what evidence or proof do you have for that fear actually manifesting or coming true?
My present version is not afraid of the thing that I was afraid of 24, 5 years ago, right? But somehow, if I don't sit with it, there's a certain energy from the old version of me that makes me still be afraid of this. So whenever I do feel anything rise up within my body, because they say the body keeps the score too. If I feel that, but I get then to talk to my body like, no, we're safe. It's not that. We've done this. We're safe. We got this.
I feel we don't do enough of talking to ourselves in the way that we would speak to our best friends or our loved ones. Or one thing I'll say, and maybe that's a question for you and I can answer off the back of that, but how do you navigate fear in your daily life?
Honestly, for me, I do daily check-ins within myself, mainly like emotional check-ins and all that. So when I'm trying to check in with myself, that's when I usually catch like something is bothering me. What is it? Then I sit with it. Oh, it's this. Okay, what about it? And to be honest, there have been versions of me where avoidance I thought was the best way forward. Like, oh, I got this thing, I'm afraid of it. So I'll just procrastinate to do that thing until I've done everything else.
And the reason being is that there was no guidance. So I hold you in high regard and give you that compassion for the younger parts of yourself, that the reason you were avoiding it is because you didn't know how to deal with it, right? And of course, there's other reasons like being scared of even dealing with it or wanting to go there. But a huge part is that we didn't know. Now, as coaches doing the work that we've been doing for the past few years, we understand how much more liberating it is to actually deal with it on the spot than have it accumulate over time and becoming worse over time because we keep neglecting it, because at the end of the day, that's also a part of us, and it's part of the inner harmony that we spoke about in earlier episodes of ultimately it's that we want to make all of our emotions feel heard, because they're all parts of us that are trying to say something. And so that check-in, I need to emphasize on that for our audience, that check-in is number one. Number one, understanding what's going on. Let's sit down and let's talk about it. And we say, oh no, you know what? I have work. I need to do this. No, none of that is as important as putting yourself a priority and dealing with the shit right now. Because when you're telling yourself that I don't have time for you, essentially you're saying you're not that important. And so now we start kind of reaffirming for ourselves this limiting beliefs of you are not worthy, you are not enough.
Yes.
In your experience, what do you feel have been the greatest lessons that you got out of fear?
Ooh. It's interesting because one of my greatest lessons I've learned from it seems as if just because I got the lesson doesn't mean that it's easy to apply.
Of course.
You know what I'm saying? Going back to that, false evidence appearing real. I must say one biggest thing I've learned about fear is that our minds build up something to be more than the actual experience that we end up having. So if I'm afraid, let's say I'm afraid of an interview, I'm afraid of something that's to come in a week's time or 2 weeks' time. The build up that I do within myself, within my nervous system, within my mind, right, about that thing, actually then ends up affecting my experience of that thing, that situation. But however, when I look at it, it's also almost as if I debilitated myself, like I couldn't move because of fear. But when you get to the situation, like, oh, it's not as bad at all. Actually, it's not even bad.
You just reminded me, I went to a retreat, I think about 7 years ago, and this guru that was there said 99% of your fear is made up. And I never really understood it until recent times of we spend so much time in that anticipation period that you talk about, that we literally wasted time in that space of stressing out about things, thinking of the worst case scenario, fearing things. And then when you come to actually do it, as you said, you realize, oh my God, because in our heads we made it so big. And this is another part of the reflection that you're talking about, why expression and putting it out and externalizing it is an important part of overcoming it, or really maybe putting it at bay, is In our heads, when the fear is there, think of it, how small are our heads compared to the whole universe? So we keep the fear there, and so it expands, and there's nowhere else for it to go, so it starts taking over everywhere else inside. When we then put it out there, you
Yeah.
realize, oh, wait a minute, now that it's out there, it has so much other room to be free and kind of fly out. I don't know if that, if I explained it in the best
No,
way,
no,
but
I got that. I got that 100%.
yeah.
That's a beautiful way of describing that. As you're sharing what your guru was saying, it just hit me home as well. Like, wait, like I've shared with you, like I'm planning to relocate, right? And I got a lot of things coming up for me. What I got from what you're sharing with me is that when we take it out of here, put it out there, there's room for it to expand and room for us to see it for what it is. Right. And yes, we do it in our reflection time. And some people, maybe they journal, some people they talk to themselves, some people they vent it out, but just getting it out of the system. I just realized that a challenge that I'm facing or that's been going on in my head that I've been afraid of, I was like, wait, as you were literally sharing what you're sharing, I was like, wait, I just need to write it down, get it out of my head, write it down, and then compare it with the facts that, wait, I've done this before. I've done this many times. This thing that I'm afraid of, I've done it many times. And I've, like just getting it out of your head is right. Like, oh,
Yeah.
so thank you for that.
No, of course. And I've actually shared that with some of my clients, and they found it very helpful. If you would like to pursue it as well, is having a page for each fear. So title each one of your fears on a paper and speak to it. Write down everything that there is about that fear and go deeper. Not even about needing a coach or someone out there. Just the intention of you wanting to write about that fear. You will see subconscious thoughts coming up, things you never knew that are coming up, and it's like, whoa. And honestly, one thing I found in this exercise is you start to find a pattern between all of these fears. Right? And so maybe this is one of our takeaways, for this session, or for our audience, to give them a bit of an advice on how to maybe overcome fear. And the other side of it, for me, in navigating fear on a daily basis, I realize now that the fear is going to be there. It's about who holds the power, one. So now, as we discussed how we can start regaining the power by externalizing it, reflecting, doing all of that work. And on the other side of that, then saying, okay, I hear you, you're there. I still have the power now, so you know what? I'm still going to go ahead and do it. And every single time I did that, I came to that conclusion that you were saying before. What's the worst that could happen? Honestly, it's not that bad. And so what if I get rejected, or the failure, or all of these different concepts that the world has on... That's a whole different can of worms that we'll discuss one day. But just in general, coming to the... This is the way that I see it. The essence of it is there's the fear and the ego. So the ego is saying, be scared and step back and don't do anything about it. And the higher self is saying, it's okay, I'm scared, but guess what? I'm still going to go ahead for it. Because one thing, and they did this study, and I'm sure many of our audience would have heard of this before, but I need to repeat it, is in the study they went to, basically to this assisted living, and they asked them, what is your biggest regret in life? Every single one of them said, it's not going for what I wanted to go for. That's the biggest regret, is just not going. Why? Because the fear held them back. Is it worth it? Sit with yourself. This is for our audience, for you, for me. Sit with yourself. Imagine yourself at 90 years old, looking back at your life. Is it worth it to say that the fear stopped me? In saying that, what was your biggest takeaway from our session today?
A lot of this stuff, it holds power because we're not speaking it out, right? Once we get it out of here and just talk about it, like even if you say, going back to your metaphor of taking the fears, if it's someone we need to work with, or someone we need to, like, okay, I see you, I hear you, but this is what I'm going to do. It's just acknowledging it. I think that's the word I'm talking about. Acknowledging, just acknowledging that, okay, I'm afraid right now, and it's okay. I'm afraidful about this thing, but it's okay. Just that acceptance.
That's in itself, there's this underlying notion of compassion, right? And understanding that it's okay. I feel so many of us feel shamed, for being vulnerable and saying, like, I'm scared. So fucking what? I am scared. We're all scared. We're all figuring it out. That's that show with Jonah Hill and his psychologist. They say 3 inevitables in life is constant work, pain, and uncertainty. And so many times we're trying to shy away from it. It's an inevitable. It's an inevitable in life. These are things we cannot change. No matter how much healing you've done, no matter what you've done in your life in terms of working on yourself. So why are we trying to hide? Let's face it. Face everything and rise. FEAR.
Yes. Face everything. I love that.
To wrap up, where can our audience connect with you?
Our audience can connect with me on Lionheart Coach on Instagram.
Beautiful.
Or on avriljosephat.com.
Beautiful. And definitely everyone needs to check this guy out because he is phenomenal in his work, in his being, in his spiritual presence. I'm always honored to have you. Thank you so much for joining this session. This is Sharing the Love. Please share the love. Let's see what you guys resonate with. Like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you need to do, the whole shebang. And we'll see you in our next episode.